Very fortunate to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Hari Prasad. Dr. Hari currently serves as the president of Apollo Group of Hospitals. He has over 42 years of experience in healthcare industry. Born into a medical family, a graduate degree in medicine was a natural outcome. He worked in the family hospital for 4 years before establishing emergency medicine as a specialty in India. Dr. Hari joined Apollo Hospitals and contributed to the launch of first ever dedicated accident and emergency hospital in the country in Hyderabad. Despite his busy schedule, he has authored the famous book I Am Possible in association with Kitab Publications. If you have still not bought it, we strongly recommend to buy and read this wonderful book. Over to you, Dr. Hari, for your keynote address.
Good evening. Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be on this platform and share a few thoughts. I thank the India Healthcare Leadership Forum for giving me this opportunity. These are unprecedented times where unpredictability is the rule and uncertainty is the norm. The year 2020 will be marked as a landmark in history. Many will remember it as a disastrous year, while a few will mark it as a year when change began and a new normal emerged. Despite all the hardships and misery mankind is enduring at this point of time, being an eternal optimist, I would like to mark 2020 as a year which changed the world, hopefully for the good. COVID has had a serious impact on health and economic fronts, with forecasts suggesting a cost of up to 8% of the global GDP in 2020. McKinsey estimates that India's GDP in the first quarter of 2020 fiscal year could shrink by 20% compared with the same quarter last year. The World Bank projects that the full year GDP will contract by more than 3%. India's unemployment rate, which stood at 8.4% before the lockdown, rose to 27.1% in April. Healthcare industry is also struggling to survive. COVID has had a dual impact on the sector. The burden of managing COVID, where the costs are higher, but the revenues and margins are lower, thanks to the various regulations imposed on us, and they cause a major stress on the operational and economic aspects of the industry. On the other hand, the reluctance of non-COVID patients to seek healthcare has brought down the footfalls into hospitals and clinics. COVID deserves all the credit for the losses of healthcare players in the organized sector during the first quarter, while the unorganized sector has almost shut down. Those who are waiting for COVID to disappear miraculously and are hoping to return to business as usual are in for a rude shock. COVID is here to stay, and the transition to a new normal has started. Those who leave behind the luggage of the past and embrace the new normal will survive, while those who do not will perish. Digital healthcare, preventive healthcare, diagnostic tools, therapeutic options, behavioral patterns of the community, expectations of a patient, models of care are all changing. The first lever to accelerate growth is to be a part of this change and make it happen sooner than later. This, I believe, is the lifeline for health sector in the new normal. Teleconsults, teleradiology, telepathology, eICU, wearable devices, artificial intelligence, PHR, and numerous other digital options are available today and are being adopted rapidly by different stakeholders. Digital health is an important lever for growth and has the potential to be the difference between success and failure in the future. With the advent of new technology, better understanding of disease process, and higher skill levels of providers, new models of care are emerging. There is a significant shift from traditional hospital-based care, outpatient care, daycare procedures, minimally invasive procedures, home care, even care in hotel rooms, remote care are gradually becoming the mainstay of healthcare. We are moving into an era where more people will get better care, but hospitals and hospital beds will become less relevant. This is something which the sector needs to bear in mind while planning expansions or building new projects. Capital that is being infused into the sector needs to be channelized in the right buckets, that is, the new models of care. This will accelerate growth in the sector as we move into the future. Diversification of portfolio is another important tool for healthcare sector to focus on. Apart from brick and mortar hospitals, remote healthcare models, digital health, pharmacies, education, research, and innovation must become part of the offerings of a healthcare provider. This ensures growth across the value stream in healthcare. There are numerous other levers that will aid growth in healthcare, but I will end with one last thing, which is very close to my heart. The expectation of the community is to get better care in a more comfortable environment, but at a lower cost. That is, healthcare providers will have to deliver more for less. Costs become very relevant to achieve this. Having been in the sector for nearly 4 decades, I promise you that we can save at least 20% of the costs without compromising on the quality of care in our hospitals and clinics. Healthcare providers need to wage a war on waste. This is a low-hanging fruit, and we must start now. I do not believe in preaching what we do not practice. Everything I have said so far has either been done or is in the process of being done at Apollo hospitals. I can go on, but there are distinguished personalities as part of this panel and would like to learn more from them. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Hari. I think these are wonderful points, particularly about becoming a part of the change. So that mindset, I think change is very, very important. And coming from you that still there is an option to further do cost optimization, I think is very relevant and very important for all the people who are there from the healthcare industry. But still, sir, I would like you to just, if you can, for another 5 minutes, talk about I Am Possible, because I think that is again very important for some of the young leaders who are there on this, participants who are listening to you. I think it is very important for them to read this wonderful book.
Thank you so much. And it was actually a book which I did not intend to write. I'm an introvert basically, so most of the time what I used to do is, as a let-off, I used to write down everything that I was going through as notes and leave it on my system. And one fine day, my son saw it and said that it needs to be converted into a book because it makes a very interesting reading. And that's how he caught hold of a publisher, and the publisher converted it into a book. It's all about the highs and lows of life, and the highs and lows that I went through. I was a whopping 115 kilograms in weight, a smoker, had everything to die early. But I think there was a point of time when I decided that I will not die early. Hopefully I will not. And I decided to make lifestyle changes, and purely based on lifestyle changes. That is exercise, diet, sleeping habits, gave up smoking, and all. It's purely change in lifestyle. I'm today 63 kgs. So coming down from 115 to 63, it took me 2 years, but it was worth it. Just about when I thought I was becoming healthy and I was going to live for long, I was a diabetic. So one day, I went to US and I was back, and I was very fine, absolutely no problem. The phlebotomist came and took 2 ml of my blood to get my blood sugars done. And then a couple of minutes later, he called me back and said, Sir, I drew 2 ml of additional blood. What do you want me to do with it? What other tests do you want me to do? I said, just 2 ml of blood, just throw it away. But what he did was what changed my life. A couple of hours later, I got a call from the pathology lab saying that I need to go there immediately. I thought there must be some problem in the pathology lab, so I rushed there to solve a problem. But when I went there, everything was quiet and everybody was working as normal. And when I went to the pathologist, she was very glum and gloomy. I did not understand why. And I asked her what happened. She said, sir, there's a problem in your CBP. I said, my CBP? I never asked for a CBP. But she said the phlebotomist sent the extra 2 ml of blood for your CBP and there is a problem. I said, what problem? Just as she was about to mutter out something, the hemato-oncologist walked into the room and she went through the microscope, went into and saw the slide. And she came back and said, sir, you have leukemia and there are abnormal cells on the slide and you have leukemia. I said, I just can't believe it. There must be something wrong with the sample or something else because I am absolutely fine and there's no problem. Then she said, no, you have leukemia and this is your sample. And I said, what is next? She said, we need to confirm your disease. I said, do it immediately. Then she said, we need to do a bone marrow test for you and you come fasting tomorrow morning and we'll do it under anesthesia because it's a painful procedure. Being an anesthesiologist myself, I've given anesthesia for so many bone marrow transplants. I said, nothing doing. I wanted to prove her wrong. So I said, you do it under local anesthesia and do it right now. So with a lot of push, because I was the boss, they couldn't say no to me. So they went ahead and did the bone marrow under local anesthesia, then itself and did the slides. And they confirmed that I had leukemia. And from then I was arrested into a room because, as all of you would know, a leukemia patient is more prone to infections. So I was into a room and then they did a lot more tests and then they came back to me and said, see, there are 2 options of treatment for you. One is the traditional chemotherapy and you would have the regular side effects of chemotherapy like losing your hair and your appetite. And you know how a routine chemotherapy patient looks like. And the other option is to go in for an alternative form of therapy, which is a very high dose of vitamin A and arsenic, which will not have the side effects. And they showed me literature which showed that for that particular form, there was a genetic aberration. For that form of leukemia, the results are the same for both. So obviously I chose the second option where the side effects were not there. And I had the loading dose. And then for the next 9 months, I had chemotherapy. I kept working. I was in the hospital where I was employed. So I kept working from my room. And at the end of 9 months, fortunately, I got rid of the disease. It is now almost 3.5 years I'm past the disease. So there were many, many such instances in life that I went through, and I captured all that into that book. And I only hope that if it's an inspiration for even for a couple of people, the purpose and the intent and the time spent on writing the book would be meaningful. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to talk about that book.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think it's a wonderful book, and I think we all are inspired, as well as all our participants listening to you are inspired. Thanks a lot, sir. And now over to you, Sakshi.